Long Fallen Dynasty is so much fun. Now, a lot of people are actually getting into this game because people are like, it's a lot easier than normal Souls games. So a lot of people are jumping right in. Now, it is definitely easier than normal Souls games, but it is not easy. So in this video, I'm going to go into a guide on how to get better at the combat in general, get better with your reflexes, and then on the other side, I'm going to go into tips in terms of your equipment, weapons, and stuff like that, how to cheese enemies a little bit, and basically, hopefully with these tips, you can become overpowered through your Long journey. If you enjoyed my content, please make sure to subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the Long Beginner's Guide. So let's go into the basics. You have your normal attacks that will change depending on whatever weapon you use. You have your wizardry spells, which are basic spells that you upgrade when you level up. And then you have your arts, which are your basic special abilities, a lot how you see in like Elden Ring when people use those special abilities. Now this game is more like Sekiro when it comes to your stamina gauge. In this game, it's your spirit. Now every time you parry an enemy, you're going to get spirit back. Every time you hit them, you're going to have spirit. And it's going to deplete pretty quickly, and you want to use that to use your arts and deplete their stamina bar quickly as well. This will lead into a takedown, which will deal massive damage to their HP. Now, the difference between this game and a lot of other Souls games or action RPGs is the red glowing attacks you can parry, and you want to parry. It is huge. If anything, for a couple hours, if this game is giving you trouble, sit there blocking and parrying until the boss or enemy does that red attack and practice getting those. Do not be scared. A lot of them are going to be super delayed. Just sit there and watch the arm or weapon of the enemy, and right when they swing, click that circle button, because that is going to lead to massive damage. After you do that, make sure to click triangle to do a heavy attack or something to smack the enemy right after. They're susceptible to a lot of spirit damage right after you do a takedown like that. Now that is huge for this game. You can dodge by clicking circle twice, and the lower your equipment load, the faster you will dodge and the more of them you can do. But I don't recommend dodging unless you really just need to get out of a situation. Most of the time you want to parry, you want to be aggressive. If you're having trouble in this game, you need to just run headfirst into the enemies and practice your circle parries. Every time they swing, just parry and smack them back. You could even hold L1 to keep your block up, and as they're hitting you, then parry them to practice. Now for the weapons and stuff, it's all going to have different attack animations and speed, so try them out, all the loot you get, and find whatever flow you enjoy. Now the number, when it says like +2 to up to +5, blah blah blah, that means how strong your weapon is when you're upgrading it. And then when it has the purple or gold, you know, like the loot legendary tier, that stuff is pretty much for the perks that come along with it. It'll have, you know, extra spirit damage, extra attack damage, extra flame damage if you're a fire build. So that comes in when you embed weapons. You'll basically get a hub suit into the game, and you could go in there and change the stats. So the main focus of like a 4-star gold weapon is that you could put 4 of your own perks on them eventually. So that is really nice. Same thing with your armor. You could upgrade everything, and also if you wear an entire set of the exact same armor pieces for your head, body, hands, and legs, you will get a set bonus. And a lot of these are really strong. I would mess around with these, especially if you get a specific main character's armor. If you wear them all, the armor set usually gives you something cheese, and I would base it off that. For example, when I got Hong Qing's armor, there's an ability where you will have fire on your weapon after you use her art, and it does mega damage. So you basically want to plan it. You go in, use her ability, and then you start smacking the enemy because you have a whole bunch of extra damage. So find one set that you really like, and I would use that. Morale and fortitude are very important in this game. If you don't know what that is, that's the number, the little circle number at the bottom of your screen by your health bar. Every time you get a giant flag or these little flags, you're going to raise your fortitude. This is the number that you're going to spawn with every time you die. That number raises or lowers your damage when you're fighting enemies depending on high or low. So if your enemy has a 7 fortitude and you have a 5, you're going to be doing less damage. And then your morale is just the number you have in total at that moment, because killing enemies or blocking their giant red attacks will basically give you more morale, so you could walk into a boss fight with it higher. Pay attention to this, because if you go into a boss fight and you're getting absolutely dumped, look at their morale, because the boss might have like 22 morale and you only have 17. That's not even smart to go into that boss fight. Go around the area, get some small flags if you didn't get them all, and kill some enemies. Now, when you're leveling up your character, it looks a bit confusing at first, but basically each of these elements you level up is going to have different stats. It shows that on the right, like you're going to upgrade water and it's going to help with your stealth, you're going to upgrade fire, it's going to help with your weapon damage. Now, I would suggest going with one element if you're having trouble, or even with just a first playthrough, it's smart. Like, have 80 fire and then a little bit into your other stats. I'm not joking, because then your fire will be outrageously strong. Then you go in and embed a weapon with extra flame damage. Now add those together, that's a lot of damage. I would do this with any element you want, because mixing and matching will work, but your first playthrough, if you're having trouble, you're not going to be able to get the stats you want perfectly aligned. You're probably going to mess up somewhere, so I would really stick to one element and just become a fire mage or a water mage. And also, do not sleep on the buffs. There's some spells where you can make it so you gain healing when you smack an enemy, and there's a whole bunch of things like that where it doesn't do direct damage, but the buffs are really helpful. Another thing you can always do as well is go to your main flag, go to reinforcements, and use these tiger seals you pick up to spawn in another helpful teammate. You could have up to 2, and sometimes you'll be spawned alone, or even with just 1, and you should have plenty of those tiger seals to spend on them. You can also sneak attack enemies, and it's dependent on how high your water stat is, but that's just how they hear you. You can walk up slowly by tilting your stick, and then you can assassinate a lot of the enemies around you. The environment usually has shortcuts to where you can get above a mini boss, just so you could jump and do a takedown on them with triangle. Make sure to level up by doing sub-quests. I actually didn't see this, at least until like halfway through the damn game. Go to your travel whenever you're near any flag, and the travel has all your sub-quests, your other quests where you can do your wizardry stuff to basically get higher spells. All this area is going to be in your travel section. Bow and arrows are also very important. Like, you could just snipe a bunch of wizards that make your day a lot tougher when you're trying to take on a mini boss. So get in a nice spot, whip out your bow, and get those headshots. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all the main gameplay tips I have. You just gotta basically practice after all that. It's all based on reflexes, and you have to be aggressive. A few more tips I can give is don't be scared. A lot of these enemies try to psych you out with their giant AoEs or the particle effects or their giant swings, but you really just gotta sit there and watch their arm or their weapon, and right when they swing, smack the button, almost like a rhythm game. And sometimes in this game, if you really just play defensively and wait for those red attacks, you can get away with it. So there's a lot of ways in Wolong to basically get out of a hard situation, and the game is definitely easier of the Souls-likes, but it's not easy. So if you beat the game, GG's, very good job. But I hope this guide helped anyone that needed help with this game. There's a bunch of tips that will be eventually figured out with this game down the line. People are going to find cheese builds and all this stuff, so I'll definitely be here to update. But I hope this helped you guys, and remember, just keep practicing, and I'll be back in the next video. Peace.